Hey guys, it's Katie here with Life the Mundane and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Organized Homeschool Planner from Not Consume Ministries. And guys, I did a video review on this already, going through a flip through detail page by page. So if you guys want to check that out, be sure to check this link above or down in the description below. But today I'm going to actually show you how much have I actually used of this planner. Did I use all the planner pages? Did I not? How have I been liking it? And how do I set up and plan a month's worth of school? So keep watching if you want to check that out. Okay, so let's take a look, and I'm going to give you guys all the details on it. I'm really excited. So I don't know if the camera can actually pick this up or not, but there's this wonderful sticky residue all over the front of the cover that was added by my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old. And if you go to the month of February, you'll also see their beautiful artwork that has been added to my planner. So as you can see, this has actually been used. I'm excited to share with you guys what I think about it. Besides my kids loving to get into it, I have really enjoyed this planner overall. Do you want to walk through the first few sections very shortly and just share with you guys what I used and loved and found helpful and the pages that I could have done without, and the things that fall in between. So let's jump into that. If you'll remember, there are 4 different tabs, 4 different planning pages. Now the idea with this planner is that you plan big picture so that you can come down and plan in a smaller chunk, but still not a day-by-day plan and still not a week-by-week plan. And that is what I love about it because it's so flexible, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. But part of that looking at the big picture is going through and planning for your vision and planning the big picture vision of your entire home and your homeschool. Just planning what you're doing, right? Planning your homeschool space and planning what you specifically want for your students in that year. And we're gonna look at that just a little bit closer. So if you guys have been around my channel before, you know that I talk a lot about knowing your why so that you will know why you homeschool, especially on those hard days where it is hard to get motivated. So personally, I have always focused on that a lot. So I personally thought I wouldn't need this vision planning section as much because I thought I had thought through it all. That being said, I actually used almost every single page in this vision planning section. All right, we talked about why does our family homeschool and broke it down into small chunks. The important things that are in my family and things that are just important to us in general. I also went through kid by kid. This planner has spaces for up to 8 children, which is awesome. It's big family friendly, but was able to go through and break up very specific goals overall for my children, spiritually, socially, emotionally, physically, and academically. And this is not just for this year. This is a big picture again. Remember, we'll narrow it down to this year a little bit later. Also, if you'll remember from my flip through, this page, I loved it. It helped you once you've worked through all of those priorities. This helps you put them in place and say, these are the foundational things, the things that are non-negotiable. These are the building blocks on which everything else is built. The things in the attic are still really important to our family, but they are extras. If we can't do anything else, this is what is foundational for our family. And I love that she gives you detailed instructions to walk you through how to go about this process. And again, this might seem overwhelming to, get all your priorities set for your entire family. But when you go through each page that she has laid out, it is really, honestly, it's just doing the next step. And it's broken into very bite-sized pieces. Now, when it comes to the next section, which is the planning section, they have great evaluation sheets for last year. I did this overall and I did put detail what went well, what didn't go well, what needs to be changed as far as the whole year as a whole family for our homeschool. But to be honest, when I got down to this section, which is where you're supposed to do sort of a similar concept but do it per child and see last year where were they emotionally, spiritually, and academically, and this year at the end of the year you're supposed to fill in where are they emotionally, spiritually, and academically. I didn't get around to doing that, and part of the reason is that I got this planner at the beginning of the school year. Like we had actually either already started the school year or we were just like 2 days away from starting the school year. So there were some things that I just wasn't, I transitioned too much into this year for. So I couldn't think through this really well and I didn't take the time to do that. Academics we can measure, we finished the science book, we did this, we did that, right? But these areas are incredibly important and hard oftentimes to track. And so I just think that especially for the emotional and spiritual, it's a good idea to just write down some places on where they are and to see how they've grown and what you've noticed. So I didn't get around to doing that, but I do think I'm gonna go back and do that again for next year. They also had some great pages all about planning your kids' strengths and weaknesses, which you can see is completely blank. I know a lot of this. I spent a lot of time figuring this out over the years, so I probably wouldn't use that page anyways. That being said, if you are new to homeschooling or you've never taken the time to sit down and look at your individual child's learning styles and their strengths and weaknesses, that would be hugely helpful, I promise, okay? Also, she has a great worksheet working through figuring out your method. What method works for you in homeschooling? And so they have, kind of putting out what kind of things do you as a mom need versus what, does your family circumstances lead to? What unique needs of your kids do you have? And it'll help you kind of, again, worksheet style, figure out what homeschool curriculum, what homeschool style might be right for you. Again, I didn't fill this out because I have spent a lot of time doing this already. Being that I'm a second generation homeschooler and have been doing this for so many years, I have that figured out, but I do think that is hugely helpful, especially if you are just starting out. Another section that I loved is the attendance record. I pre-did this. There's a couple different ways you could do it. I pre-did it. I highlighted yellow was the days we were going to be in school. Blue was going to be the light weeks that we were taking. We're doing 6 weeks on, 1 week off, or 1 week light, not really off. So that was going to be blue. Days off were going to be red, and green days are our field trip days. I pre-did this in the effort to be better at planning. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I haven't exactly stuck to the schedule. So I have kind of kept track of it on my phone, but I do want to next year probably just leave this blank and just fill it in as I go and maybe make an insert for the actual plan versus what it actually is. If you did want to plan ahead like I did though, you could plan ahead and then just circle the days that you actually are there or make notes to any changes, and that would be fine too. I also loved these planning pages. I'm not going to go through this whole worksheet, but basically they have a curriculum plan so that you can plan out your curriculum and figure out if there's this, if I want to finish this book by this, by the end of this year, how many chapters are there? How many pages does that mean we need to do a week? How many days a week are we going to do it? That kind of thing. Again, worksheet style, breaking you up into tiny pieces. So you think about all this stuff before you jump into it instead of doing it all on the fly. Then we get into the daily planning pages. And with that one, we had, things, it had you go through and break up your day into chunks. Part of this stuff I used, part of it I didn't get around to, but I'm getting more of a feel for it. Again, if I had gotten this earlier in the summer, which I think would be ideal, is to honestly get this planner. It's not dated, so I think the best way to do it would be to get this planner right now during the summer or towards the end of the school year so that you can actually work through some of these pages over the summer and be prepared and better thought through what you're going to do ahead of time. But like I said, I got this at the beginning of our school year and was still able to find a lot of it helpful, and even went back and filled in some of the pages as we went instead of doing it in advance, but I think ideally it would be to do it in advance. Okay, so now that brings us to the homeschool space section of the planner. She has, again, so many great worksheets to help you work through. How do I plan my space? What is my space gonna look like? What kind of supplies do I need? What budget do I have? All of that. And that whole section is completely blank. It's blank because, one, I've been doing this for several years, so several of my things are kind of already in place. As you can see, I'm filming in my homeschool area right now, and so we kind of have systems in place. It has taken us years to develop that, and I think worksheets like this would have, helped that learning curve quite a bit, but we've kind of already figured out our system, and again, I had already done this, already set up everything before I got this planner, so I didn't end up filling out any of this, and I probably won't for future years, but there's still so much helpful information in here that it's still totally worth it and would be great if you haven't gotten through all of that. The next section is the student planning section, and that is a little bit more where you figure out what is right for your kid. Here is where, and I'm going to show you one of the blank ones, but here is where you determine the level of independence your child is on. So you put your child's name and check whether they're beginner in the stage 1, stage 2, transition, or independent, and she has definitions for all of those, so no worries if you're not sure what I'm talking about. And then you just kind of go through and label where your kid is independently. This will help you with your scheduling. This really helped me with balancing what we were gonna do as group subjects versus what they were gonna do independently versus what they would need more help on. So for us, reading is super important, and we do have some struggling readers. So I like to dedicate more of my one-on-one time, the time that they need me to be with reading. So with math, it's really important to me that those be done independently because my kids do really well doing teaching textbooks and doing that independent study, and it frees me up to teach more reading. So this kind of helps me make sure that what I've picked out that I think will work will actually work out on paper, especially when you're dividing it by 6 kids. Okay, so now we're getting into the month's view. If you guys will see, it comes with blank tabs here that you can add the months into. I love this because a lot of people don't homeschool in traditional school years, right? We might start later or earlier. We might school year round. We might start and go, like January to October, or something like that. So however you do it, you can write them in. There's no dated sheets in here. So you guys can pick this up and start this whenever, which I absolutely am crazy about. It also has 12 months. So again, you're a year-round homeschooler, you can have all 12 months in the plan. And I honestly recommend writing all 12 months in, even if you are not year-round schoolers, because there are going to be year-round opportunities for learning that you can put in here for your records. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But anyways, so you can see, this is the month at a glance kind of thing, okay? And I know you guys are used to, the boxes and the checklists and stuff, and this is really, really different. I promise, this is total game changer. This makes all the difference in my homeschool planning. I've never planned so well and never stuck to my plan so well as I have with this planner. All right, so you can see, this is September. It's a little bit more sparse because I'm still figuring out the planner, as you can tell, but it is prettier. You'll notice it's all in different colored inks and there's more drawings and stuff like that, whereas when you get to like February, March, it's all in black, maybe some pencil, maybe with some toddler scratch over it. We digress. But my planning is better, just not as pretty. But anyways, the idea here is that you put the month up here, and this is your word cloud. These are things that you want to remember for this month. So for instance, at the beginning of the year, I sat down and said, I want to do one hymn. We do a hymn. We sing a hymn every morning for our morning basket time. And I said, I want to do a hymn every single month, a new one. So I wrote out a list of all the hymns that I wanted the kids to do during the year. And that was part of the planning section in the beginning. And then I went, okay, here are the ones that seasonally kind of matter which month. And here are the ones that can go any month. And so I just started labeling. So in September, we did number 667, To God Be the Glory. Okay? And I just wrote in every single month what number and what hymn I wanted to do in that month. This is supposed to be kind of just a dumping ground for your brain. I wrote in here which read alouds I wanted to do this month. I wrote in here that our state fair was doing $1 a day where you got in for $1. So I wanted to make sure we did that as a field trip. I wrote in here what I'm doing with my preschooler. I was doing an All About Me preschool unit. And so I wrote some notes on there about that. And then when you get into further months, you will see things like little notes to myself. Like, okay, so we're going to be ramping up the spelling department in this area. Or we're going to be starting a new subject. Here, we're going to switch the winter books downstairs. I have my picture books all laid out and we switch them seasonally. So I made a note to myself to do that. I also put in here that we were starting a new chore system. This was important, okay, guys? We were starting a new chore system, which means the schoolwork needs to be a little bit lighter because there is a huge transition that happens during a new chore change in our house. And I've done videos on it in the past if you guys want to check it out. But basically, I knew that I needed to be a little bit lighter on that because when we were doing that training, that was going to take a little bit more time. So writing things down there and all throughout the month. This is not all at one time, guys. Anytime you're thinking, oh, you know what? I saw this Facebook event page for this field trip. I want to do this. So I just flip over to April and I write it in April so I won't forget it. Okay. That kind of thing. You can always change it. I've scratched things, I've scratched things out and adapted and whatever. But the idea here is this is your dumping ground to remember the main key things you need to do. I also, over time, developed that I started putting our goals for our group subjects on this front page as well. So I will go in and with Bible, I have my hymn here that we're doing Praise Him, that we did in January. I have what lessons in their Bible book are we going through, and then I have which catechism questions we are memorizing, and do that for the entire month. Again, this picture here is that we're going big picture to small picture, and small picture is 1 month. Not 1 day, not 1 week. So when you get sick and things change, it's okay. There's lots of buffer and a lot of flexibility to be able to get those things done. Okay, so after that page initially in the month, you have got your month goals for mom. And I love this. It has you jot down a whole bunch of goals and then just kind of pick one in a couple of different areas. So in January, I started my Psalm study, and that was one of my spiritual goals, that I wanted to start a new Bible study. One of my health goals is I was starting again to track my steps and make sure I get my 10,000 steps in every day. And one of my financial goals was that we were doing our no spend month, which I did a video on as well if you guys want to check that out. But then you've got your goals for your kids each month. So I have a box for each child, and in here I just have written out, in math, I want them to get from this lesson to this lesson for the whole month. Okay, in reading, I want them to get from this lesson to this lesson. Spelling, this lesson to this lesson. Grammar, and so on and so forth. This has been really, really helpful because, again, it's not overwhelming. I leave in a little bit of buffer. I don't schedule every single day, you know. But for a lot of subjects like math, it's just one lesson a day. I don't need to sit here and do these fancy, extensive lesson plans. If you guys saw my video on my planning at the beginning of the year, I said I was gonna like transfer all of this, you know, weekly to a weekly schedule. And yeah, that didn't last very long. It didn't end up happening, but this has been my lifesaver. So here I can just kind of glance and go, all right, are we on track? Last month, we actually did 3 extra lessons in reading than I expected to do because the kids kind of hit a groove and they started going a lot faster than they had been. But in math, we were about 2 lessons shy of what I had kind of budgeted for the month, and that's okay. There's a lot of flexibility here. It didn't totally mess up my plans or anything, but it allowed me to be able to kind of gauge, all right, we need to make sure that even though these things are pretty much just do the next thing, I want that balance there with going at their pace and understanding what realistically you can get done. So I take a day at the end of the month, and I do wait until the end of the month, okay? But I take a day at the end of the month, and I just kind of sketch out what next month's plans are gonna be roughly. I look in my sheet for the next month, you know, my word cloud at that first page of the month, and I just go through and say, okay, are there any things that I need to prepare for, or I need to go get books from the library, or those kinds of things for. But that is all the planning that I actually need to do. I also like the fact that in the back they have verses to focus on, so if you're trying to memorize certain verses, you can write those in here, prayer needs, and praises that have happened in the month. And this is another one. I'll be honest, I have not filled this out for every month. It's about every 3 months. And I think once a quarter is a great time to do an evaluation, but here it's things I'm grateful for, things that worked well, things that God revealed to me, things that I need to change, things that I'm trying to pray over. So like this one was next year's curriculum, how I saw God working this month, something I need to do more of, something I need to do less of, those kinds of things. They have this for every month, and I think if you can do it every month, that is great. But realistically, I get to it about once every 3 months or so, and I feel like that's a lot better than in the past. It also, when you go to do this the following year and want to do that whole year overview, that's going to be so much easier to have an accurate picture of how your year actually went if you've been tracking and kind of asking yourself those evaluation questions all along versus trying to remember and stretch at the end of the summer or the end of the year where you're just fried and you're only thinking about the past 2 or 3 weeks that have happened. You can see that whole picture of that year and what went well and what did not. So all in all, I would give this planner 5 stars. I definitely think you guys should go check it out. I will drop links down below. This entire month, we're going to be focusing on homeschooling, like big time, guys. Homeschooling curriculum, homeschool scheduling, homeschool everything. So be sure, if that is what you like, to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss out on any videos. Talk to you later. Bye.